The Abrams P-1 Explorer was an interwar aerial photography and survey aircraft designed by aerial survey pioneer Talbert Abrams, an early pioneer in the field of aerial reconnaissance, who got his experience during World War I photographing enemy positions and supply lines. After the war, efforts began to survey vast areas of the USA, and after initial success, he founded the Abrams Aerial Survey Company in 1923 for systematic aerial surveying. However, the aircraft used, the Curtiss Jenny, wasn't properly suited for the task because of limited camera downward visibility and the camera itself being mounted vertically, making precise positioning difficult, and loud noises from the wind and engine prevented good communication between pilot and photographer, which was essential for the task. And there were even bigger issues. But we're talking about the Abrams, not the Curtiss Jenny. In any case, the issues prompted Talbert Abrams to create the Abrams Aircraft Corporation in 1937 in Lansing, Michigan, to develop a specialized aircraft for the task. And since he had no expertise in the field of aircraft construction, he hired Kenneth Ronan and Andrew E. Kunzel, who operated a small aircraft repair shop in Michigan. Abrams envisioned an aircraft with the engine in the rear fuselage and the wings, as on a delta wing, positioned as far back to create a spacious, fully glazed workspace for the pilot and photographer. Work began in February 1947 on the design of the aircraft, now called P-1 Explorer. The aircraft design would end up developing into a mid-wing monoplane of all-metal construction, with the structure being of welded steel tubing, combined crew nacelle, and wing center section covered with sheet aluminum panels. With a central fuselage nacelle, twin booms, delta-type wing to facilitate side vision, and fixed nose-wheel landing gear. It would be powered by a 9-cylinder R975E1 radial engine that was to be installed in the rear of the fuselage nacelle to drive a two-bladed pusher propeller. The Abrams basic design project was accepted. But as construction began in August 1937, a problem in the structure of the forward fuselage section became clear. The proposed spherical-shaped glass panels were not technically feasible, so Ronan and Kunzel turned to the German company Rohm and Haas, which had developed a polymethyl methacrylate acrylic glass in 1934 and had been manufacturing and selling it under the name of plexiglass. As the company signaled the willingness to manufacture the necessary panels, Ronan and Kunzel began working on the templates for each individual panel, a total of 28, that would be then used to actually manufacture them. The fuselage was of monocoque construction and housed the pilot and photographer in the spacious cockpit. The rear-mounted engine was vibration damped to avoid blurry photos and covered with a NACA cowling. The two main wing spars ran through the fuselage between the cockpit and engine, and the main fuel tank was mounted on these spars. The wing was made of three-piece construction. The center wing section passed through the fuselage and carried one of the narrow oval cross-section tail booms on each side. The outer wing sections were attached to the tail booms, who along with the outer wing sections were of all metal construction. The ailerons were also sheet metal covered, and each tail boom carried a vertical stabilizer with a trimmable rudder, while the horizontal stabilizer connected the two tail booms. The landing gear was a fixed nose wheel design, with all wheels aerodynamically faired. The main wheels could be hydraulically braked, and the nose wheel could swing 25 degrees. Testing and fate. After a little less than 10 months, the aircraft was completed and ground testing began at Marshall Brook Field in mid-November 1937. And the maiden flight took place on the 25th of November 1937. It went smoothly, without issues. The aircraft received the civilian registration number X19897, and it would be used for government contract survey work until the beginning of the war. However, the aircraft appeared underpowered, and Abrams demanded to install a more powerful engine. Thus, the aircraft was fitted with a Wright R975 engine, increasing its takeoff power to 450 horsepower. But this required the installation of additional bracing of the wings against the fuselage with an L-strut. The new engine also received an adjustable three-bladed metal propeller. The aircraft will end up with a wingspan of 11.7 meters and a length of 8.3 meters, with a wing area of 18.6 square meters. Its empty weight is 1,067 kilograms, with a normal takeoff mass of 1,545 kilograms and a maximum of 1,600 kilograms. Payload capacity reaches 460 kilograms, supported by 386 liters of fuel. The aircraft achieves a maximum speed of 289 kilometers an hour at low altitude, increasing to 322 kilometers an hour at 3,050 meters. Cruising speed at that altitude is 202 kilometers per hour, while stall speed is 102 kilometers per hour. Climb performance is strong, with a rate of climb of 7.1 meters per second, reaching 1,000 meters in 2.5 minutes, and a service ceiling of 6,100 meters. Operational range extends up to 1,930 kilometers, with a maximum endurance of 7 hours. Takeoff requires 385 meters, and landing distance is approximately 420 meters, making it suitable for relatively short runways. Abrams hoped this configuration would lead to further sales of the P-1 Explorer, but the United States Army Air Force initial interest in a battlefield reconnaissance aircraft quickly waned, as existing fighter planes equipped with suitable cameras could be used for this purpose. And with the US entry into World War II, aerial photography surveying was interrupted, and the P-1 disappeared into a hangar at Brooke Field for the duration of the war. It was left there until 1948, when the now obsolete aircraft was transferred to the US National and Airspace Museum in Washington, D.C., where it was stored until 1968, when Jin Lin, a former employee of Kunzel and Ronan, remembered about the P-1, and with a few friends and support from some US associations, began to work to restore it to flyable state. However, disagreements arose between the partners, and the restoration was never completed. Today, the P-1 is stored in Paul E. Garber Preservation, Restoration and Storage Facility of the Smithsonian, where it remains out of public view. Abrams had projects to develop the P-1 further. The P-2, same general layout as P-1, but it had a retractable landing gear. The P-3 was a pressurized military project. PC-4, pressurized or commercial project. This was the aircraft Ted Abrams referred to as the Stratoplane. They sadly never came to reality, and the P-1 is still waiting to complete its restoration to this day.